Dobry dzień, Ukraine. Good afternoon. Welcome to the new paradigm for a productive lifestyle. Insight Conference Ukraine 2019. Strategy for productive thinking. It's such a great honor and privilege to be speaking to you guys. I do not take it for granted. I tried all I could to be in Ukraine, but well, I couldn't make it, so we have to do this. So I welcome you all once again, and of course I welcome all our guest speakers as well. Thank you for honoring the invitation, and I do hope we would all have a great time this afternoon. So my name is Tade Daniel Omotosho from Warsaw, Poland. I'm a lecturer and entrepreneur. So let's get started to our discussion this afternoon. Well, I have the outline here. I have a workshop, a small task to do, which you will see the answer at the end of the presentation. Then I'll give you an introduction, illustrations, transformed mind. I'll talk about transformed mind, and then strategy and way out. Okay, so let's get started. Now, how old are you? And how young is your mind? And of course, how productive is your mind? You see, the person's true age is not measured by the number of years they have lived. A person's true age is measured by the processing power of their mind. So your real age is measured by how productive your mind is. And that's why I'm asking you, how old are you? And how young is your mind? How productive is your mind? Okay? Now, very quickly, this is the task I'm going to give you. Astronomer, desperation, the eyes, Presbyterian. So, your job is to rearrange these letters and then tell me what you see. So, write these words down. Astronomer, desperation, the eyes, Presbyterian. And then after the presentation, you would look at the answer. So, I'm going to skip through the answer very quickly. Okay? All right. Now I've got another task for you to do. Connect these 9 dots together. Okay, connect these 9 dots together with only 4 lines. With only 4 lines. Connect these 9 dots together with only 4 lines. Okay. And when you start, you can take your hands off. All right. We're just doing some mind exercise this afternoon. All right, so I'm going to jump the answer as well, and then after the presentation you can check the answer. All right, now let's talk about productivity. The ability to be productive is in every living creature. So it is counter nature not to be productive, and that's why I like the title of the conference. It says, a productive lifestyle. So we ought to be productive. Being unproductive is counter nature. So the ability to be productive is in every living creature. Hence, it is counter nature not to be productive. Now, those who don't produce, those who are not productive, or those who don't know how to produce, they would always be at the mercy of those who have the skills and those who have the know-how. Now, doesn't that sound like the African problem? Now, stay with me, don't go. Now, the African problem is partly due to ignorance and lack of production. For example, you hear things like people say, I eat imported chocolates. Doesn't that sound like ignorance to you? I eat imported chocolate. I wear only imported clothes. I wear Italian shoes. Believe me, this is the height of ignorance. Because you pay for your ignorance. And the cost of ignorance is always higher than the price of knowledge. Now look at this picture here. You see raw cocoa. Okay, this is raw cocoa. And here you see refined cocoa on the other side. So here you see raw cocoa, and here you see refined cocoa, produced cocoa, which has been, it's the raw cocoa has gone through production process and it has become chocolates. Now, do you know that we are constantly paying for our ignorance? Each time we don't produce, we pay for our ignorance. Now look at what's going on here. The price of cocoa, a kilogram of cocoa, okay, the price of a kilogram of cocoa, raw cocoa beans, it costs about $23. On the right side of the slide you see that. While the price of 1 kilogram of chocolates, refined chocolates, processed cocoa that has been turned into chocolate will cost about 93 euros. So you have 23 euros and 93 euros. Now this might not be very accurate calculations, but just to give you an idea. So each time you buy imported chocolates, you're paying for your ignorance. Each time you buy imported shoes, imported clothes, you're paying for your ignorance. Why? Because those who do not produce or know how to produce will always be at the mercy of those who have the skills and the know-how to produce. So it's the same with all our natural resources. We produce oil. I mean, we have so much oil deposits, but we need to take it out to refine it and then bring it back in. So think about this. Take away the cars we drive. Take away our technology. Take away our electronics. Take away everything we use. Now tell me, what is left in Africa? What do we have left? What are we producing? Now let's look at it in a micro scale. What are you producing? What value are you creating? And that's the way the world goes around. That's the way economies are built. Values are being created. Production process. So the concept of national economic development begins with individual value creation. And that's what we're talking about. And that's why you cannot afford. If Africa will change, we've got to be productive. Now, when you look around you, you see cars, electronics, airplanes, etc. And you can almost identify some of these products with the countries where they come from. You see a Mercedes-Benz, definitely it's a German car. Okay, you see a Bombardier, Canadian company. So when you look at all these things, just look around you on the streets where you live. You can almost identify every product around you with a particular country or continent. The question is, what can you identify Africa with? Yes, what can you identify Africa with? Yes, the first wave of innovation had so many Africans, but now, what global brand do we own? What are we producing? And I sincerely hope that this is not, or that Africa, that we are not becoming a dumping ground for expired medicine and winter tires. I sincerely hope that this is not an economic slavery. I sincerely hope that we will break out of this vicious circle of dependence. I sincerely hope that someday we will stop hiring the Chinese to build our roads. I do hope that one day we will not need the French and the Americans to provide security for us to fight terrorism. And I do hope that one day, as Africans, we will rise up and become productive to solve our own problems. Now let me show you how one of the Scandinavian countries is doing it. And then I'll show you what one of the West countries are doing. And then, why can't we do the same or even better? What exactly is our problem? What is the African problem? Now look at this case study. An interesting example of productive and progressive thinking is the waste to energy program in Sweden. It's one of the most successful in the world, with only 4% of garbage making it to the landfills. The rest of their waste is used to generate electricity to power their homes and businesses. They are so successful, the program was so successful that in 2012, they faced a major crisis. What was the crisis? They ran out of garbage. Can you imagine? All right, so yeah, still talking about the case study of Sweden. So if Sweden can achieve that much, can you imagine how much more a country or a country like Nigeria or a continent like Africa can achieve? So it's time we begin to get it right. Now, another case study I want us to look at is the case of, Manhattan. In 2011, there was a celebration of the 200th year of the launch of the master plan of Manhattan in New York. Now, this is truly amazing. This means that while most people were still riding horses in 1811, some people were envisaging and making plans that will be relevant in the era of cars and highways. Now, what do you think inspired this kind of people? What kind of minds could conceive such an amazing thing? Now, the other case study I want us to look at is the Black Wall Tunnel in London. This runs under the River Thames and it was officially opened in 1897. Now, both Manhattan and the Black Wall Tunnel are products of minds that were not confined to their time. Now, this is really remarkable considering the fact that a lot of minds are focused just on their paycheck. A lot of minds are focused just on survivor mentality. And that is why in the next few slides, I want to quickly talk about productive mindset. Okay, now, the productive mind. You see, the mind is the birthplace for all ideas. Every revolution, every change comes from the mind. Everything you see around you today was first in the invisible realm. Every single thing you see around you, it was first in the mind of someone. It was first an idea in the mind of someone before it goes through the process of, production. So everything comes from the mind. Now, it's like the painter. The image you see, the beautiful pictures, the beautiful paintings you see is actually an expression of the mental picture of the painter. So what you see physically was simply the result of the image that a painter had in his or her mind. The same thing with an architect. The building plan you see, the building design you see is in fact the mental picture of the architect. So that is to say that you must have a picture in your mind. You must have an image in your mind. You must create an image in your mind. All right, so that's where production or productivity comes from. So if we're talking about being productive, it starts from your mind. Now, what is in your mind? Let's begin from there. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Think about your favorite car, maybe whatever kind of car you like or you drive or you see around you, maybe a BMW, a Toyota, whatever it is. Think about the color, the wheels, and the interior. Now, what do you see when you close your eyes? Open your eyes now. Were you seeing letter BMW or you were seeing letter Toyota? Are you seeing letters or you're seeing image? I'm trying to emphasize the point here that we need to create images. We need to create pictures in our minds. That's where production comes from. Productivity begins from. Until you are able to see it, until you're able to imagine it, until you're able to create the mental picture, you cannot produce it. Okay? So a third class mind will produce a third class product. And that's why I say every country is a reflection of the mental capacity and potential of its citizens. A third class mind is not likely going to produce a third class product. A third class mind is not likely going to produce a first class or a world class product. Why? Because the mind must shift from third to first. Everything begins from the mind. Even in the most despicable environment, a third class mind can still shift from being third to first. That's why you see sometimes exceptional people in third class countries. They did not allow the despicable environment to limit them. Okay? Because your mind can imagine, your mind can travel, your mind can create pictures, images, which becomes reality. So, where do you start from? Where do we start from? Our minds and our values must shift. Our minds and our values must shift. That's the starting point. Okay. Now get rid of microwave mentality. Get rid of, survivor mentality. Get rid of thinking only about, the next paycheck, short-term thinking. This is the problem. So your mind is your most valuable asset. You've got to develop it. You've got to develop it. The process of production begins from the mind. You cannot produce anything beyond the level of your mental capacity. Your mental capacity is your power. You can't produce without increasing your mental capacity, without being inspired, without, this picture in your mind. Now, you see, the case of a boy who grew up in a little village without electricity, without, running water, a little boy who has not seen an airplane before. Guess what? He's not likely to ever dream of becoming a pilot. Why? Because the image has never been conceived in his mind. The picture has. That's why your mind has to be developed. Your mind has to grow. Your mind has to be inspired. Your mind has to, has to be exposed. Now, to be productive, there are 3 formulas I'm given here. The first one is D multiplied by V multiplied by P greater than C, where D is your dissatisfaction with the status quo. For you to be productive, for you to have this new paradigm for productivity, starting point is a desire and a hunger to change the status quo. And that's the problem with us in Africa. Sometimes we are not ready for change. We're not ready for change. See? So desire for a strong desire to change the status quo. That's one. Multiplied by vision. You must have a vision. You must have a picture. You must have a clear direction of where you're going. You must have a clear picture of what you want. And then multiplied by P, where P stands for practical steps. Practical steps, which means, practical action. Now, all this put together, your dissatisfaction and your vision and your practical steps, they all must be greater than the constraint. And that's where the changes begin. The change to becoming productive in your life, which in turns leads to macro productivity in terms of national, growth. So we must start from individual level, and then when people are developed in their minds, they create value, they produce, it then leads to, this ultimate national productivity that we're all looking at. So you can never solve a problem, okay, when your mind is not developed. You can only solve a problem when your mind is developed beyond the level of the problem. So begin to feed your mind with the right food. As food is to the stomach, so is information and knowledge to your mind. So keep your mind young, keep your mind growing. Now, the environment has a capacity to influence your mental picture, but here's the deal. Be careful. Don't let the environment make you conform to it. You let the environment conform to you. And that's a question I want to ask you. Are you a thermostat or you are a thermometer? Now, what's the difference? A thermostat regulates the temperature, while a thermometer responds to the temperature. A productive life would be like a thermometer, not like a would be like a thermostat, I beg your pardon, not like a thermometer. Now, the example of a ship on water is the one I love to give. When a ship moves on water, it doesn't allow the water to get into it. That's the way you've got to live within the context of environmental influence. Live from within out, not from out in. So you've got the capacity to change your environment. Now, the environment has the power to program you if you're not careful, and this is how it programs you. First, by observation, by imitation, and then by repetition. You remember the English saying, it says, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your action. Watch your actions, they become your character. So by observation, by imitation, and by repetition, we can be programmed if we're not careful. So we need to take caution there. So to break free from this cycle of, the program which our environment might have put us. Yeah. So to break free from the cycle of, program that the environment has put us, we need to unlearn, we need to relearn, and we need to keep learning. So unlearn, learn, relearn, and keep learning. Now, be transformed in your thinking. Now, this is also something I want to talk about. Which one came into existence first? A problem or a solution? A problem or a solution? Which one came into existence first? Most people will say the problem, but I usually say the solution. Why? Because the existence of a problem is a proof that a solution exists. The existence of a problem is a proof that there's a solution. And that's why in English language we say, find the solution, look for the solution. Now, do you look for something which was not existing? So the concept or the ideology here is that solution already exists, and the problem came because it needed you to find the solution. And this is the way innovators think. This is the way inventors think. There is already a solution, but we've got to sit down, get to work, and find that solution because it exists. If it did not exist, the problem would not have showed up. So the problem is only a proof to you that there's a solution somewhere, and your responsibility is to find that solution. Okay, so let's stop talking about the problem. Let's focus on the solution. There's a solution to the African problem. Let's find it. And it begins from our mind. It begins from a mental shift. It begins from a new paradigm, a paradigm of possibilities, a paradigm of, solution, a solution-oriented paradigm. Changes in our value system. And that's why I suggested this way. Now, the African elites need to support the government. The government is failing. The African elites need to be strongly involved in the public sector. Whichever way, public-private partnership, the African elites have a role to play in developing, rescuing Africa from the problem we're in. Mass enlightenment and propagation of innovative and progressive value system. Our value systems are completely eroded, completely, collapsed. There has to be an enlightenment of a productive and progressive value system. Individual efforts to blaze the trail. Yes, individuals have a role to play. We all have a role to play, a collective role to play. Individually, when we begin, when this change starts with us, when this proper value system starts with us, when this innovative and progressive value system starts with us, then we can make progress. Because at the end of the day, individual makes up the nation. So when individuals get it right, ultimately we will get it right, because you can't be in a moving car and not move. So when we all get it right, it would be a collective success. It would be on micro level. When we get it right, it will culminate to form the macro progress we're all looking for. So individual effort also will go a long way. Government investment in education, science, research and development, and of course infrastructure. So many other things to talk about. Patents, law, regulations that support innovation and all of that. So, but the point is, we've got to start focusing on the solution. Let's stop talking about the problem. Let's focus on solution. Let's get our people empowered, and let's make progress. So I want to leave you with this final challenge. The little African child you were, proud of the adult you have become. The little African child you were, is that child, that little child, is that little child proud of the adult you have become? Thank you very much for your attention. This is my Facebook. You can stay in touch with me. I really appreciate once again the opportunity to present this very short discussion. I wish I had more time to be able to expound on it, but I'm sure the other guest speakers will do justice to that. So very quickly, let me take you back to the task I gave you. Okay, so this was the last one. Connect all the 4 dots together. Usually people say think outside the box, but instead of thinking outside the box, why not just get rid of the box or get out of the box? Okay, so here you go. This is how it should look like. connecting all the 4 dots together, all the 9 dots together with 4 lines. All right, and then here's the answer: astronomer, moonstarer, desperation, a rope ends it, the eyes they see, Presbyterian, best in prayer, and that's it. Okay, all right, so that's it. Thank you very much, guys. Once again, I appreciate your audience. So do have a very great time and enjoy the rest of the presentation. Thank you.